Two kids from Queens, cut from a different cloth. Now joining forces, helping you to elevate your personal brand. Yeah, I'm talking about Nicky and Moose, bringing you a never-before-seen perspective into the mindset, the mentality, the behaviors, the driving force, but more importantly, the stories behind the people and brands that you know and love the most.
Was poppin'. Welcome, Nicky and Moose. I'm Nicky. That's Moose. What's up, Moose?
What up, y'all?
And welcome to YouTube Livey. I realize I say that a lot, so now I have to make that into a thing. I was doing like a little trailer, right? Because YouTube now allows you to do like trailers for live. So I was like testing it out. And I was like, oh, I do say that a lot. So now I'm going to always say it's so weird. But anyways, welcome to the live stream. First and foremost, thank you for joining, right? Whether you're watching the replay, whether you're super on live, whatever it is, thank you. Second, episode 45 came out. All right.
Hey now.
Once again, we talked about a lot. Just go check it out. That's it. Just go check it out. We talked about a lot of money, like a lot of money. Yeah, like billion, 900 mil kind of thing. We talked about a lot. So, yeah, go check that out. Episode 45. Shout out to our All Access Squad. That goes out tomorrow. But Moose, how are we feeling?
Pretty good. I was just telling. I mean, we had a chance to briefly talk before we started, but it's been a productive week. I think I've been teasing. It's like, yo, it's air traffic control season, so I've been heavy on the just like walking around, pen and pad, really organizing, using Trello and doing some crazy stuff. So I got away from that a little bit. So yeah, for those who are interested in my personal well-being, I'm back in the air traffic control season. It's great. You should try it sometime. Give you a free trial or something. I don't know.
Congratulations.
That's for you. That's for you. Try it out. For you.
Congratulations. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Well, I've been writing. Hey, you saw the
You
picture?
sent me some stuff. Yep. I see you sent me some stuff.
You know what I mean?
Send me some stuff today. Yeah.
I'm not mentioning their name again, but there's a product that I have, if you know, you know, that is making me feel comfortable writing. Now, the funny thing is, now that I'm writing, I realize how much our life is digital because I have a presentation to do, so I need to do slides, but I wrote it all the way out. And Nick's like, yeah, give me it. And I'm like, give me a second because
Right.
I didn't.
Gotta translate this.
Right. So
I gotta check it in the savings and the way my savings. You had to do
I gotta
the,
write it all the way out. Well, there has to be an easier.
Yeah.
There has to be an easier way. I'm gonna check. I don't know, but it is what it is. Anyways, what are we talking about today?
Man, I've been thinking a lot about the cycle of brands, right?
Okay.
Like I've listening to you a lot. Like, you know, it's crazy, and I'll kind of admit this. I think probably a mistake that a lot of people in the coaching and training world kind of probably fall into is that you're called on to speak so much that you have very small opportunities to continue studying and practicing. Whoa, my plant is growing. Sorry, I just seen that in the hookup. Let's go.
My plant is growing.
Yeah, but you know, you get very small or very little opportunities to just study or listen to others and do what you did prior to some of these opportunities. Now, of course, not complaining. It's a blessing to be called on to do, you know, what we get to do. But I think the beauty of it is I've had to kind of force myself to do more with what I have. So part of that has become listening to your lives, listening to you on our extreme execution trainings, like just have you plugged in and like really listen, like, yo, what lessons can I take from what's being presented? Like, this is a class right here. I got to learn. You feel me? So
I feel honored. Look at
Oh
this.
no, absolutely, absolutely. And I've been learning a lot, and more than anything, just recognizing the importance of marketing and branding, like that part of it. So it's led me down the path of like thinking, okay, like let's dig deeper to what makes a successful brand. There's got to be more to it than just, kind of what we wrote in the sequence today. Oh,
Yeah.
you're talented, you're consistent, you're good looking, maybe you're very funny, you have these different things happening. So I know there are other things that come to it. So there are, and I want to kind of work with you to really like talk to you about this because I think I figured a formula and I want to see like how much we can build out on that, right? What I realized is that most people with expertise who become experts in a specific space, yes, there is acquired knowledge. Yes, there might be credentials, degrees, or any of these other things. But the most relatable ones that have expertise, they have personal experiences
Yeah.
that made them want to impact or help a specific group or community of people that they feel went through something similar that they've overcome, and they're like, man, I want to be able to help people do this. So it seems to me that there's usually 3 phases, right? You live through an experience that allows you to have something to say that allows you to become an expert. And from there, you unlock this opportunity if you can take it deep enough to start profiting. And that's like that pain, purpose, profit module, right? Like these 3 layers.
Yeah.
Now, for some big companies, and if you give me a second here in a little bit, I'll be able to put it up. I have it in my saved. For some
Look how
even big
organized he
companies
is,
or big,
people. Look how I have
I'm
it in
working.
my saves.
I came prepared today. So for some big companies or big brands, that pain, although they don't have a personal brand, that pain has come from launching a wrong product, launching an incorrect brand strategy, right?
Yep.
And it's like that's the pain that allowed them to gain enough personal experience so that they can relate it to something different. So I want to kind of like almost have you coach us through this process a little bit in terms of like, yo, is that a good place to start? When do I know it's time to start transitioning from my pain to my purpose, right? And whatever we make of that. But I'm shooting in that direction. And again, I'm gonna find that ad and give you some of these examples that I have here as well because I had that locked up.
Okay. All right. But first
Oh,
off, shout out to the super chat. Shout out to Isaiah. If this adds any kind of value in the middle, in the beginning, at the end, hit that super chat. You know what I mean? Did you find it? Did you find it?
yep, I sure did. So check this
Okay.
out. It said, here are some things that will shock you, right?
Okay.
And as it relates, of course, to the branding space.
I'm already
It
shocked.
said, number 1, McDonald's once tried to sell bubblegum flavored broccoli to encourage kids to eat healthier.
What?
Fail, right? Pain. And I'm just giving you like, yeah, branding flops of big business. You call that branding flops of big business, so that you can recognize like, yo, the pain is actually it's a great thing. We
Right.
need the pain. It's what makes us relatable, or it's what makes us know, or it allows us to know what not to do.
Yeah.
Another one, Colgate used to sell lasagna.
No. For
Colgate.
what?
Let's see if you can
But
see
for
it.
what? Ew. For what? For what though?
They used to sell actual lasagna.
But what? But why? Is there a why? Like they wanted to go into the food industry since they already clean the food out of your mouth. I might as well provide the food and then clean the food.
I think it was just a terrible attempt to expand.
No, that was a
like,
bad.
pain.
No,
Right.
that wasn't pain. That was horrible.
Right. Now this might not be so painful, but this is like something funny, and it just kind of shows like, I guess, the art of branding. All Fruit Loops are the same flavor. Different color Fruit Loops from the cereal.
Yeah.
You know how there's like green, purple, orange, yellow.
Yeah.
They're all the same exact flavor. So it's not like a mixture of whatever cereal fruit. It's the same exact flavor. They're just different colors.
I did not know that.
Last one, and then we can jump into it.
Okay.
Apple briefly had its own clothing and lifestyle line in 1986.
See, you know, I wouldn't. This is the thing. I don't know if I would be really mad at that because I feel like they would add technology into it. I wouldn't be mad at it. Now, if it failed in the beginning and it didn't start with technology, it was just straight lifestyle kind of vibes. Nah, that's not going. That's not going to work. I don't.
Yeah.
But shout out to our
Interesting
Super Chan. Super Chan. What it? Super Chat. Anyways.
Okay.
You know, whatever.
Yeah. But my point is, Nick's like, yo, a lot of these big brands or big businesses that we even, often look up to, they too have stumbled across. And there's a couple more here, but it was just like, yo, McDonald's with the purple colored broccoli, or Fruit Loops, and all these other ones. It's like, there's some pain there. And call it what you want, but it's some of these attempts that allow people to become better. So I don't know if you want to share maybe some personal experience or even maybe some people that you have worked with or watched to see them really take pain and make something of it, or be able to use their personal experiences or failures or whatever to be able to build upon. I don't know if there's any experiences that come to mind or just some advice that you would give to the person who's at that beginning stage. It's like, yo, I got a whole bunch of pain. What's up? How can I make use of this?
I'm glad you didn't want me to come up with more bad ideas because that lasagna threw me all the way off. I mean, so when it comes to like a pain, I guess it's more, I always tell people what was missing when you were trying to come up. Like whatever your pain is, what was missing? Because you went through it, and so that's your experience. But if you had to go over it again, what was that system? What was that material thing? What was that motivation? Whatever the gap was, what is that thing that would have made it a little bit easier for you? And that's where you take that portion of your life and you create a product or a service. That's your thing. Because you just saying, hey, I went through this, I got through it, I know how to help you. And they're like, okay, how? And you're like, let me just tell you my story. That's not gonna work. We care,
crazy.
but we don't.
I love that you say that too, though. Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
Look at the background. That was fire.
I was like, yo, that's crazy. Wow. Man, that was actually pretty scary. But no.
What? Are you scared of lightning?
Well, I mean, just to see it like come right behind your head, like, that's a little.
It's not, but it's not right behind your head. It's outside, way far away. You just have a fire background that makes it feel like it's right there.
Right there.
Yeah, he don't care. We're excited. You're not.
No, it took away my train of thought. I was like thinking about something special because I know what I just to go back to the lesson here for a second before I forget. But I remember there was a part where I feel like I had to it's not something that came from my experience.
Yep.
But as I was connecting with folks, I felt like they were making it a competition to compare broken narratives.
Okay.
Like they were desperately digging to show the worst parts of their story. And it's like, okay, yes, we're saying there's a pain that you often experience before you discover purpose. Understood.
Yeah.
But it's not to the point where you want to reveal broken, unhealed wounds, or you don't want to bleed over people. Like there's different ways to describe it. So Is there a balance to that? Is there a way to kind of be able to express the details of the story without making you feel like, whoa, okay, too much information? I mean, there was someone recently who we were listening to a call, and we're like, ooh, dang, this someone's don't know if you should be right. Like it happens often where people are thinking, well, if you're saying pain, then I gotta really share and make you hurt.
So the one thing I have learned is, and I don't think she'll mind me saying this because she was on the call, on the podcast, and kind of talking about it. Terica, right? I think you remember the situation where she was telling her story, but she wasn't over her story. So it was still heavy, right? You can't help others if you're not over your story. Once you're over it, you will know the key parts to say, because you know exactly what triggered you, and so that could possibly trigger somebody else. So the story is still needed, right? Because it brings context and credibility that you went through something. But so many details to the point where it even triggers you because you're not like all the way whole with it, that's a problem, right? So it's really crafting your story to what are the key parts that showed that I went through it, showed that obstacle. What did I do to help and maybe fail sometimes, right? So it doesn't seem as if I'm perfect. And then what was the final result? Because that's all we care about. Talk to me about my current life. Talk to me about the obstacles that I'm going to go through. And then talk to me about the success that I'm going to have after dealing with this journey. Yeah. And that all goes with your story too.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Some of the things that come to mind for me for sure is I think of like some of my favorite movies. And I don't necessarily go with the natural storyline because obviously those are professionals. But when I think of someone who overly exaggerates or magnifies his or her pain too much, they're actually making it a lot more about them. And that's like watching a movie where like the lowest part keeps getting lower.
Yeah.
And it's like, just like when you're like, okay, I've reached the lowest of the low, like the movie is definitely going to be up from here. Like imagine it just kept getting darker and darker and darker. It's like, I don't know if that makes the movie any more intriguing. So there's a point where you're telling the story with the sole purpose of connection. Like you're telling the story simply to get someone's attention, to feel relatable. And really you're painting a picture where the audience member or those who are listening to you are now seeing themselves in your story.
Yep.
So like I joke around and say, humans are naturally selfish. So whenever they're watching a movie, they're often thinking about what they would do in the position of the main character. So as they're watching, they're like, oh, they did that. Oh, that's cool. I can gain inspiration from that and I can do it like that too. Or no, here's how I would do it differently. So naturally, because stories have been used for, or probably the most effective way to educate people is through storytelling. That's the part that I really kind of wanted to hit on for like a level one. It's like, utilize your pain. Don't run away from your pain. Heal from your pain clearly, but just say it in a way that it connects with, the person in the audience, the person that you're looking to connect with, because I know that's a big part of it as well. Moving on to purpose. And I know we've talked about this sometimes too, but is it possible to find purpose in something and not make it a business?
Yeah, not everything has to be a business.
Okay, talk about that. Like, are there some things that you would say you're doing now or you would consider doing that aren't in your mind like, oh yeah, bet this is how that runs into my kind of business development or my brand development?
I wouldn't say me personally, but I mean, I instantly think of E. Like the purpose is ministry and what he does with APOC. But the business is speaking. So he knows he has a gift and he knows he wants to serve. And that's his major purpose, is to serve. So he'll have the ministry part. He'll have his church and everything like that, but he understands that there still needs to be a way to fund that as well. And so that's the business side of, okay, how do I take the speaking part and turn that part into a business and not necessarily colliding? Because we've heard multiple times, like I have, I'm a pastor and I'm trying to create this business all together and it doesn't work. So shout out to our game changers. Like, they had a call today, and C was like, yo, we didn't let people know about the ministry part till years later, till probably the pandemic. It's when we started elevating. But we had to get his speaking out there. We had to make sure people knew who he was while he did that on the side. But then now, at some point of his career, we could do both and advertise it both the same way. So you could still have your purpose while the way they said it is like, have your purpose on the side, get something to fund it until it can go side by side. Right. That's how I got it from today, what C said. And I was like, that makes sense. That makes sense, because sometimes our purpose doesn't bring a huge bag. Sometimes it doesn't.
Absolutely. And that's actually what I was going to say, like kind of attempting to rattle the boat a little bit, but I think you're pretty much in alignment, is like, a lot of businesses fail because they're not meant to be businesses. Like some people's purposes or ideas or what they feel most passionate about, as incredible of an idea as it may be, and I'm not saying this to discourage anyone, but you got to understand what makes fundamental business work and what are some things that just logically go against the grain of supply and demand. Like, unless you have major influence or a major network that can create create demand, meaning someone actually is in need of what you have to provide, you don't really have anything tangible. So you end up running yourself into this rat race because, again, you hear everyone saying, chase your purpose, chase your purpose, chase your purpose. Then it's almost misleading in a sense if you can't make sense of it properly. So I saw that comment too. You had it up on the screen. It's like, use your gift to fund your purpose, and which is powerful, because for me, I talk about it at least a little bit more consistently now, where I used my experience with people to start a business in the hospitality industry, specifically a staffing company or a staffing agency that I literally called the Dream Supply. And I named it with the intention of, this is going to be the thing that funds not just my dream, or not the thing that supplies not just my dream, but it also supplies the dreams of other people in the industry. The thing about people in the hospitality industry in New York, back when Broadway was on, a lot of the people who worked in the hospitality industry were often Broadway actors, musicians, startup entrepreneurs. And the unique thing about it is that you're able to accept and deny work without getting fired. So there's a level of flexibility. It was almost like the Uber and Lyft of hospitality, right? Like you can accept an event or an opportunity to work. You can deny an opportunity to work and you don't get fired. So that worked a lot for people who were pursuing some of these auditions or different opportunities to get plugged in without having to take on a full-time job that doesn't allow them to do these things, right? So it was like that's really what I did for me. And over time, it did the same exact thing for me. Created the opportunity, the flexibility, and some workaround where I can do this next piece, right? So it's like, just know, and that's not a bad thing. That's not something to discourage you, that there are some times where what you're passionate about isn't necessarily a tangible business idea, but that's okay because there are other workarounds to it. Or of course you can find meaning to it. So I don't know if you got anything to add to that, but I just know like that was a real tangible thing for me, because legit, like that's exactly what I did.
I actually got a question. So is it sometimes, not in all situations, right, with your purpose, maybe if you're trying to make it into a business, you have to find somebody else who is super business minded towards that purpose. Because I think we are so in love with the purpose that we can't necessarily put the correct price tag on it or understand how to make the right deals, because we were put on this earth for that reason. And so business and purpose sometimes doesn't make sense business wise. Like, it just doesn't go together. But to say sometimes that it can't be that way, I think maybe you just need an extra person who can think like that for you, so you could be able to do the purpose and still make the money at the same time. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, there is a portion of it where, there's one of my favorite books. It's a book that Simon Sinek wrote, and he gives different examples of different why people, and how those why people are typically visionaries, right? They're the ones who have a big mission or a big purpose that they're extremely passionate about, that they want to pursue and follow. But they often struggle until they find their how person. And then their how person is usually that business-minded person who can really take what they're saying and do maybe more of the linear work with it, or more of the structural kind of organizational stuff with it. So there are some examples that exist, right? Okay. And again, we don't got to look too far. We talk about E and CJ often, and how CJ was able to take what E's doing today and he was doing back then, but from getting nothing to, commanding upwards of tens of thousands of dollars for a single speech now. So I do think there are some scenarios where you're right. You're like, yes, it can be profitable, it can be purposeful, or it can be a business, but you might not be the person to take it there. But I don't know that not a lot of people are mature to accept that, like to really get to a space like, okay, woosah real quick, I'm not the right person for the job. That takes a lot of maturity. Yeah. But no, I do agree with you though. There's for sure times where people can't get over the hump, because at your best, you can only be really one or the other. To make it work on both ends is really rare.
I think, I agree with you. I think it is rare. But hopefully, like, the people who listen to us could understand that part. Like, it's possible, but if you're struggling with the business part, you may need to find somebody outside of you. If you are really trying to do this and only this, right? And I'll go back to Isaiah's joint, where it's like using your gift to fund the purpose. I mean, we still have multiple gifts, right? We still are able to possibly do both and enjoy doing both. So it could be a back and forth thing. I think, like you said, it's just a maturity level of, if you are doing that and it's not working to the way that you want it to, like, evaluate real quick, fast, in a hurry.
Yeah, that's a good word. Yeah, before you give up, before you move on to something else, yeah, definitely consider that. I like that. Real quick, and we'll get back kind of to that next piece where we talk about profits. But what about, because you mentioned multiple gifts or multiple passions or multiple purposes. Yep. What about those who are truly passionate about more than one thing, right? Is it seasonal? Do you try and do something that eventually you kind of combine all of these things together? Because I do feel like it's probably even something that I think about from time to time, right? Like, I know for me, I often talk about social economics, and I'm like, social economics for me is the ideal situation where a percentage of all your profits are returned or dedicated to a cause that is truly meaningful, at least to me, right? But when I think of that part of it, there are at least three things, right? Of course, I think of widows and children growing up with a deceased parent, right? Why is that? Well, I lost my father to a sudden massive heart attack. So to me, that's like, yo, I want to do definitely and give back to that community. Another part of it is, of course, those who are first generation, right? I'm like, man, for anyone who has gone through that first generation experience, I don't care if it was first generation in college, first generation in a given country, first generation to start a business, any first generation, you face challenges that I cannot explain, right? Like you really are up against some very unique situations that I'm like, yo, I want to be able to give back to first generations. And then, of course, I think of, a few other different concepts that have to do with sports when it comes to exposing people of the inner city to, let's say, high demand scouts or people who can take their talents to a bigger scale, because it's known that athletes of the inner city usually have the toughest time getting the exposure that they need to either get college sponsorships, professional scouts, whatever the case may be. So like, even for me, and I don't know if anyone who's listening or watching can relate, but it's like, yo, when there are multiple passions or purposes, and I don't even know if that's a word, what's that like? Is it a matter of just getting a bigger bag, one to fund all of them? Or is it, you know what I'm saying, like a seasonal one that you kind of work up to?
So I think, let me do this. So
yeah,
I'm very big on understanding that we all have multiple gifts, right? And the reason why I'm in understanding of it is because I do help people with their brands, and they're like, yo, I'm great at this, I'm great at this, I'm great at this, I'm great at that. Absolutely. And I'm not saying that you're not. However, you love doing what you do until there's an obstacle. And then the gift isn't that much fun anymore and you don't want to do it. That's why it's very important to figure out your strongest gift and your purpose. Because those other ones that you're really good at, you're amazing at, right? When and you're trying to monetize it, when there's a low day, you may not want to do it no more. But you're good at it. You're great at it. But somebody didn't pay their invoice, or the launch didn't do very well with this particular gift. No one came to the event for that particular gift. And then it's like, I don't want to do it no more. But it's still a gift. So I really suggest for those who have multiple gifts to really prioritize it. What would you do? I say it like this. What would you do first thing in the morning? What would you do after work, after a 9 to 5 kind of vibes? And what would you do if you got woke up at 1:43 in the morning? If they're all the same thing, great. If it's multiple things, understand that your strongest one is probably the one where we wake you up all of a sudden and you can do that one. The first thing you think of in the morning is probably the second one. The one you find time afterwards, after work or something like that, that's cool to do as a hobby. You do that on your free time. So I'm big on prioritizing the gifts.
Yeah.
And
that's major because.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go for it. No, go.
No, go.
No, I was just going to say it's major because oftentimes people typically take what is easiest to them as the least important, because in their minds they're thinking, well, I walk with this thing every single day. I've probably worn it out. I don't see it as special or as elegant to me. But if you really pay attention and slow down, you'll notice that most of your compliments or most of the things that are giving you good feedback is from that thing that you don't really pay attention to. It's like, wow, that's so amazing. How'd you do that? Or who did that? It's like, yep, it's typically the one that you appreciate the least. In most cases, when you talk about purpose, that's the one that's easiest.
Yep. Shout out to Chris. I see you. Shout out to everybody who hits us up on the super chat. But I think so. What is your thoughts on when not everybody, when some people try to do it all and then get upset that their bag isn't right? And for those who don't know what bag is, that means money. That means money in your bank account, things that you have in your wallet, stuff like that. I realize we have different age range, so I'm just like trying to cover it. You know what I mean?
You gotta give the Urban Dictionary definition real quick.
Big facts.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing that I've been thinking about, and it's funny, if you haven't listened to our last episode, actually, if you're not subscribed to our after show, make sure you go check that out, because what I'm about to say came directly from that, right? And you'll probably get the full context in that. I love to, like, the best thing I can talk about is what I'm experiencing. Like, I really use Tuesdays as an opportunity to kind of more so reflect and teach and share and even express from what I'm currently experiencing and going through. Mm-hmm. And one of the biggest things that's been helpful for me over the last 2 months, because regardless of what you see, I'm telling you that when we picked that title for episode 44 and we said your heroes are human too, right? We're not just talking about us. We're trying to let you know that every single person whose videos you watch, all the artists and movie stars that you look up to, that they too go home and at some point in their day, sometime in the week, maybe sometime in a month or in a year, they go through some form of challenging times where they're like, man, I don't feel like doing this video. I don't feel like doing this movie. I don't feel like doing this music. I don't feel like doing whatever it is that they absolutely love to do and probably has funded their lives exponentially. Right. So I'm just humble enough and honest enough to say it. Like, yo, I too still have mental battles with my own self. Like, dude, why aren't you doing this? You should be doing that. You could do more of this. And the thing that's working for me in this season is this concept of maturity. You know, and I'm like, yo, when intellect meets maturity, you get wisdom. Intellect doesn't just come.
Wait, first of all, you're not going to speed past that like you didn't just say what you just said.
Yeah. And I've just been thinking about it, like, yo, I've been smart my whole life, but there are people who are smart that make mistakes over and over because they never reach this level of maturity. Right. So when intellect meets maturity, you get wisdom. Then you get the true lived experience of, hey, here's what to do and what not to do because of my principles, values, and my unique experiences and what I've learned from them. So for me right now, I'm learning through maturity, not through anything else. It's maturity that's teaching me. So when I come up on a question like that and you say like, yo, what happens if you're frustrated with your bag because you want to do all things? Or when you do all things and you're not happy with the money you're making? The question I ask myself at the beginning of any journey now, yo, is this something sustainable or something that I want to do for the long term? That's my big question, because I've realized that when you talk about legacy, when you talk about all these different companies and the examples have been used around companies that have been long lasting forever, these are companies that have been around 50 years, 100 years, like a lot of years. Let's just say that.
Like a lot
They've
of
been
years.
around for a minute. Yeah, a lot of years. They've been around for a minute. So that's not something that you do seasonally or when you feel like it, right? It's really through some form of collaboration, some form of unique process that allows you to not just sustain, but improve and innovate something over a lifetime so that it can create generational wealth and legacy and all these other things that people find attractive today. So for me, doing all things is a very selfish thing to do. It's like, yo, let me go ahead and do all the different parts of my company so that A, I don't employ anybody else. I don't give other people opportunity, although it might cut into a portion of what I'm doing. But if you only have 100% effort and you got 2 things to do, then the most you can give to each of those things is 50%. Right? Or unless you split it up, however. But if I hire another person to help me, then maybe I can do it where they can dedicate 100% to one thing and I can dedicate 100% to another thing. So combined, there's more energy to give out. So when you think about it through that lens, Nick, it's just for me, it's like, yo, when you choose to do all things by yourself, it's selfishness.
Yes.
It's greed.
Yes.
It's you thinking you can make more with less, when in reality you'll have less to take home with you. But you get on the other side of it, and then you start asking some of these tough questions like, okay, is this sustainable? Can I continue to do this through the different life cycles that I'll go through? Like, I just got married. Now I'm thinking about my life, like not just through my experiences or my expenses. Let me say that. Not just through my expenses. Now I'm like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4 children. Not, and I'm like, okay, hold up a second. Some of this stuff is not sustainable. I'm not mean. I'm not selfish or any of this. I'm just saying it's not sustainable. So it makes you expand your vision to be able to, right, support those who you love and who you care for. So yeah, that, I don't want to ramble on too much about this piece here, but I definitely have been thinking about it just a little bit differently as of late because of this maturity piece. And I'm like, yo, but at the end of the day, is it sustainable? That kind of thing.
I'm more, and I think I put it in our group chat one time where it was like, if you want it done fast, do it by yourself. If you want it done successful, do it with a team, right?
Yeah.
And for the type of person that I am, like, I got no patience. And so there has been many times I'm like, all right, I'm gonna just do this. I'm not waiting. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But by me taking on that responsibility every single time, I can't sustain that. So I have to look back and be like, okay, this is cute for right now. And maybe you had to go through that so you can understand what is needed, what you have to teach somebody else, who you have to put in place and know exactly the details of what is needed for this particular task or job. There's a reason why maybe you had to do it on your own, not just because you're hard-headed and, that's your Leo vibes, whatever. It probably is that, but I'm just going to find a mature way to answer this. You know what I mean? But finding the positive of all those times that you did it on your own, that you didn't want to ask somebody for help, that you wanted, wait, side note. I meant to text you and Carl this, right? Mm-hmm. And this is for my people who struggle with the pride situation.
Oh, that's me.
I wasn't going to say that, but I was just talking in general. Super side note to the conversation for like 3 seconds, but it goes together. What sounds better to you? I did it on my own, by myself, from the ground up, or I did it, I just had some help. What is the difference in your life at this moment?
Well, I think pride runs a little deeper, and we could definitely expand on this. I think pride runs a little deeper because I don't think for those who have pride, and I'll speak about myself, it's not about not wanting help, because I appreciate help. Like, for example, there's actually a time where I went on record to say, no one is self-made.
Right.
No one. Not Jay, not Warren, no one. Mm-hmm. Because there are people in even their own lives that have contributed and made deposits in some form or fashion. So you can't say that anyone is self-made. Like, that term should be eliminated, right?
They just came out with a whole self-made American richest women in Forbes. But okay, I got you.
Right. I think
get rid of self-made. The top 50 self-made women by Forbes. But that's okay. Go ahead.
Right.
I know what you mean.
Right. In case you're considering any edits, just give me a call. I'll help you out. No worries. We'll
We'll call it something else.
Yeah, but it's just like, there's a lot of people who make deposits into everyone's life that it's difficult to truly say, this person's self-made. Now, when I think of pride on the flip side, I really do think and it's to a fault. Look, no one's perfect. I'm not perfect, but it's to protect ego from someone hanging over their head to take credit for something you work so hard to acquire or attain, or parts of the journey that you developed on your own to create the opportunity. So I think that's the ugly, and I'm not saying it's good. That's the ugly thing of pride.
Well, let me give you some context, because it's not about not having a team. See what I'm saying? Like, it's not taking any kind of help, because clearly, if you have any type of success in anywhere, not necessarily in a business or whatever, you probably got some help, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's some low-key mentorship, even from like YouTube mentorship. I don't,
Exactly.
you know.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm not saying that, but from listening to some of these entrepreneurs, right? That's like, I didn't get on no platforms. I didn't have nobody to promote me, this, that, and the third. I grew it on my own. And now, 7 years later, I'm successful, right? Did this on my own. You know, that type of vibe. Did this on my own, woo, woo, woo,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now, there could be a person who I've been doing very good not saying use. Leverage their connections, leverage their time in a certain environment, location, and allows the help to still get to the same goal. And cuts out time. Now has help, and there may be a group that says, if you didn't have this, then would you be here? Right. But at the end of the day, you both got what you want. What's better? Saying I did it on my own and no one can hold this over my head, or I did this with help, mutual help, and I'm okay with that.
Tough question, Nix.
I know.
Tough question.
So I was thinking of this when I was, getting ready, and I was like, for me, at this point in my life, I'm okay with, because of my associations, I'm cool. Like, it doesn't make me different. You question my skills, maybe. I don't care for you. We both are in the same league. We both had different obstacles. I've leveraged certain things because I've worked hard in this particular field and everything. And just because I know strategically how to use my relationships, and you felt like doing it all manually, that's why it was more of, if you want it done fast, do it by yourself. At this point, help me. Where's my...
Help me. Help me.
Help me.
Because if I do this by myself any longer, I am actually holding back my success. Will it get there? Yes. But I would like to enjoy it a lot sooner than this 5, 7, 10 years down the line, whatever. Now, can it be sooner? Absolutely. Not saying like it can happen tomorrow. Boom. $13 million in my bank account. Talk that talk. Hey. Thank you. Right? Thank you. Right? But I'm looking at it from if I take the help, even from a deeper standpoint of, if I get the help, then I can help others sooner. If I do it by myself, I'm only trying to like come up for air and can't even help other people get to shore. I can't. I'm not in no position.
Yeah, there's a level of confidence I think that you gotta have to be able to accept help, because like I and it really is just a personal thing. Like I've seen some people in the comment kind of speak to both sides. And again, shout out to Mario. I see Mario is on with us too. Shout out to Mario for dropping some of his takeaways and just some of his knowledge in the chat as well. But I saw like, you know, Vic said, if you call yourself self-made, isn't that not pride talking? Right. And like that's a great way to look at it, because I do see some people who are so confident, and brother Mr. CJ comes to mind, like
Brother Mr. CJ.
You know what I'm saying? Like you can't tell that man nothing, and he will ask for help. Yes. But it doesn't make him feel any less than. Like it doesn't make him feel like he did less work to get to where he got, or to what he accomplished, because he got help along the way. Like I think he has enough confidence, and I'm not saying that's exactly his reality, but I feel like he's the type of person that comes to mind that has enough confidence to go through that type of situation and not really have anything kind of move his spirit or his soul. He'll still be grounded in his confidence and who he is. Right. But culturally, and I can't get away from this concept, because at the end of the day, for people of our backgrounds and just different minorities and all these different things, we can't really break up with what culture has almost strong-armed us into believing. Culturally, the person who is quote unquote self-made always gets more respect than the person who got a handout. I think culturally that person will always have more respect. Like, for example, you'd see people will respect Nipsey way more than they appreciate, let's say, someone like Donald Trump. And I'm not saying because of politics, but everyone knows, or at least they always reference Donald Trump getting his start with a couple $1 million in his bank account. So it's like, well, if you have both entrepreneurs, both very successful, forget how much money they're worth or accumulated, but you're always going to look at, for the most part, somebody like Nip, like, okay, I give him more respect. So I think that's the one thing that hangs over that prideful person's head. It's like, oh, right, I don't want to be that person that is told X because of Y.
So, man, this leaves me in a very uncomfortable situation. But let's have this conversation. So, if we look at the two, right? Nip and Trump, right? One can say, yes, he did it, you know, from the mud up, blah, 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 right? And it just feels different. I could respect that because you went from soldier to boss. So you know what really needs to happen.
Yep.
However, oh, man. Bring up somebody else, because it sounds like I'm talking great about that man and I don't want to. So if anybody else could think of somebody who got a guap of money or inheritance, please just put it in the chat so I don't have to talk about this man. But of a person who has that criteria.
Fair.
Man.
And you can just call it like second and third generation money, because I think, yeah, you don't have to necessarily think of him as that example, but it really goes for anyone of that status, because at the same time, we know people who are second generation money who don't want the help because they're like, nope, I know that's going to mess with my street cred. Like I know of people right now who are, you know, going through this debacle.
Yeah.
I can't believe I just said that word, but yeah, go for it.
I hear it. Threw me off a little bit, but threw me off a little bit, but I believe that the person who has, and this is not for everybody, but who gets that extra help with money or whatever, may be in a strategic position to do more, but just needed the resources and happened to have the resources. I don't think that's necessarily bad just because they had the resources to make what they were going to do anyways happen quicker.
Yeah.
I think both go through trials and tribulations, but it's really the strategic and strong-minded who, when they get that guap of money, they know exactly how to sustain it. You can get help. Somebody could give you a silver platter, but if you don't know what to do with it, it means nothing.
That's true. Yeah.
So somebody could come, and we see it all the time. Some people can come from the same neighborhood, have nothing, and some will elevate. Some people will get the same loan, same guap of money, and some will elevate. It's just resources. It's what you do with what you have. And I don't know if there's really a big thing except for saying, I did this on my own. That makes it different. But that's more for who?
Yeah. No, and that part is true. And that's why I personally understand that there are probably more faults than good things that come from pride, right? Because at the end of the day, when both cross the finish line, I don't think that the winnings are any different, right? You both crossed, you both made it to the other side. So I think that definitely is, at the end of the day, it's the same concept. But I don't know that it's any different, to be honest with you, when both on the other end. But I know the pride part of it, that's that part of it is not so helpful.
And don't make me speak against Nip ever again. That was very rough.
No. It's a nice little situation I put you in.
That was rough. That was real maturity and not fangirl status. Thanks.
I seen you. Stay disciplined. That's good. No, that's good. That's good. No, I mean, I know. I feel like we jumped away from our original dialogue a little bit.
We did.
But this was rich because it has a lot. Yeah. No. This was rich.
Sorry, because I meant to text you and Carl for this dialogue, and my short attention squirrel mind clearly didn't do that. And so when you said a key word, I was like, oh, let's talk about it real quick.
Right.
Because I think some people needed to hear that too, because sometimes, depending on the society that you're in, because that plays a role too, of do it on your own, grow all by yourself, blah, 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 no loans, no this, that, and the third. But how do we know, here's a different thing. Not same thing, but different thing. How do we know the people who did it by themselves didn't have a loan? Didn't have some type, maybe they're downplaying the help, but there's some type of help that everybody has to receive, regardless if you come from the mud or you were given daddy's money.
1,000%. And that's why I say nobody's self-made. That's the part of it that I'm dealing with. Okay, I understand pride is not a good thing. I can't help that I have it, but I know it's not good, because at the end of the day, I also believe that nobody's self-made. Unless you can say, yo, I've navigated my entire career, my entire business, spotless, zero mistakes. I've never had someone say, hey, I know this was but I'll give you another chance to redo it. Unless you can really say that for however that lifespan is, 20, 30 years, you can't say that, because even in opportunities, just in someone providing you with an opportunity, that I would argue in a way takes away from your self-made status, because someone granted you an opportunity to build, whether it's through utilizing the funds for the work or exchange for the services to take that and do else or scale or grow. So that's why I say no one is self-made. Pride is an ugly thing that we got to deal with, but I respect people who understand the importance of shortening their learning curve and expediting their process. So it's like there's nothing wrong with that. I don't necessarily look at that as cheating. But I do know that just culturally, from where we come from, there is just that extra little bonus, a little extra flavor that's added on anyone who can at least make the run for being self-made.
We'll have this conversation offline. I'm cool with it, because I was like, do you get an extra star? Like, does that come to the grave
Culturally.
with saying like?
Culturally, yeah.
So it's just like a status thing. So it's like
It
a
is.
Rolls Royce.
It is.
Fair. Okay,
It
go
really
back.
is.
My bad.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, we're good. I mean, I think in a lot of ways we covered, the profit side of it as well. Because if you stretch back, we talked about not all purposeful ideas can be businesses. At some point in that journey of whether it be your purpose, your passion, or however you're looking at it, at some point in that journey, you got to get with the other person to complete you. If you're a how person, get with a why person. If you're a why person, get with a how person. That book, by the way, is, of course, Start With Why. I think Isaiah also
put
mentioned it.
that.
Start With Why, Simon Sinek. Read that book. Phenomenal book. A lot of great lessons in there. And then, of course, at the end of it is, asking for help, right? It's that same concept, right? Or accepting help. How you accept help, I think, has a lot to do with this concept of eventually knocking into profit. So, so that's funny. Vic is my was a teammate on my first ever Little League team, right? Vic, yeah. So. And it's funny, oftentimes I don't even call him Victor. We used to call him Guru, right? And so I see his comments that we all got pride, and especially you, Moose, you should have pride. Your growth has been incredible since our youth. So we literally known each other for probably well over 20 years. Fun fact, he was at the 8% event in Dallas when we were there with E.
Yeah.
And didn't know until after the event, when I came back home, he sent the message, and I'm like, dang, I wish I would have known. I would have loved to connect with him. But nah, Vic, that means a lot, man. I appreciate it, dude. And definitely look forward to connecting here in the near future too.
I love like throwback
Full circle.
things. I love it.
Yeah.
Aw.
Full circle, for sure. For sure. That's it.
That's it? That's it.
There you have it. There you have it.
I'm here for it. That's it. All right. So,
There you have
people, go check out the podcast. Share it with somebody. Just one person. Okay. Take a screenshot that you were on this live. Say, hey, everybody, go subscribe to Nicky and Moose. It's a whole vibe. I said to Moose earlier, on this day a year ago, we had 400 subscribers, and now we have over 2,500. So shout out to all of y'all. Because without y'all, this channel would not be possible, and the podcast would not be possible. So we are out next Tuesday, same time, same place, different episode. You know what I mean? You already know what we're going to say. Holla.